First contact. The skies over New Shanghai burned. Colonel Evelyn Rees squinted through the cockpit of her F-52 Thunderbolt, searching for a break in the roiling clouds of smoke and ash. Visibility was near zero, but she couldn't afford to rely on instruments alone. Not with those things out there. Stalker 1 to all units, she barked into her comms. Maintain formation and watch your six. These bastards are sneaky. A chorus of affirmatives crackled back. Good. Her pilots were scared. Hell, everyone was scared. But they were holding it together. Humanity needed every last shred of courage it could muster. It had been just over 2 months since the swarm arrived. No warning, no attempts at communication. Just a storm of crystalline pods raining from the skies, each one unleashing dozens of writhing, chitinous horrors. The carnage had been immediate and overwhelming. Beijing fell in hours. Moscow lasted less than a day. By the time the world's militaries mobilized a coordinated response, most major population centers were already overrun. New Shanghai was one of the last bastions of organized resistance, a hastily constructed megacity, cobbled together from the remains of a dozen smaller urban centers as refugees poured in from the surrounding regions. 20 million souls, huddled behind walls of concrete and steel, praying the defenses would hold. Rees and her squadron were all that stood between the city and annihilation. A flicker of movement caught her eye. There, diving out of a bank of clouds to her left. Contact, she shouted. 3 bogies, 9 o'clock high. The alien flyers were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. No wings, no visible means of propulsion. Just sleek, dart-like bodies of some unknown material that seemed to absorb radar and lidar alike. They moved with impossible speed and agility, dancing through the air like malevolent hummingbirds. Rees yanked her stick hard, bringing her thunderbolt around in a tight arc. G-forces slammed into her body as targeting systems came online. A shrill tone filled her helmet missile lock. Fox 3. A pair of hypersonic missiles streaked from her craft's underwing hardpoints, leaving trails of superheated plasma in their wake. The alien craft scattered, moving faster than any human pilot could hope to match. But Rees had anticipated this, leading her shots perfectly. One of the darts erupted in a spectacular fireball. The other took a glancing hit, tumbling end over end before regaining control. Splash 1, Rees announced grimly. Damage on the second. Third is shit. The undamaged alien had looped around with impossible speed, diving straight for her cockpit. Rees instinctively threw her thunderbolt into a wild corkscrew, feeling her vision start to gray out from the G-forces. A blinding flash filled her vision. For a heart-stopping moment, she thought she'd been hit. Then she realized the explosion had come from just off her port side. Got your back, Colonel. It was Lieutenant Chen, her wingman. Bastard never saw me coming. Rees let out a shaky breath. Nice shooting, Chen. Where's the last one? Before Chen could answer, alarms began blaring throughout Rees' cockpit. Proximity warnings, missile lock indicators. They were lighting up like a Christmas tree. Brake, 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 she shouted, holding back on her stick and pumping chaff. The sky around them seemed to come alive. Dozens, no, hundreds of the alien darts were pouring out of the clouds, filling the air with streaks of sickly green energy. All units, fall back to secondary defensive line, Rees ordered. We are not equipped for this. I repeat, fall back immediately. She pushed her engines to the red line, afterburners glowing white-hot as she raced for the relative safety of New Shanghai's air defense grid. But she knew with a sick certainty in the pit of her stomach that it wouldn't be enough. The aliens had been toying with them, and now the real assault was beginning. As Rees dove for the deck, weaving through a hail of enemy fire, she caught glimpses of the carnage unfolding below. Swarms of smaller alien creatures pouring from their transport pods, overrunning defensive positions. Tanks and armored vehicles tossed about like children's toys by monstrous, spidery walkers that stood dozens of stories tall. And behind it all, emerging from the roiling clouds like an angry god, the mothership, a vast howling vortex of impossible geometries that hurt the eyes to look upon directly. Reeves had never considered herself a religious woman, but as she watched that nightmare descend upon the city she'd sworn to protect, she found herself whispering a desperate prayer. God help us all. The time loop. Private First Class Alex Novak's eyes snapped open, his heart pounding. He bolted upright, gasping for air, expecting to see the alien horrors that had been tearing him apart just moments ago. Instead, he found himself in his bunk. The familiar sounds and smells of the barracks surrounded him. Sunlight streamed through the windows. "What the hell?" he muttered, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. "Rise and shine, Rook." Sergeant Mill's booming voice filled the room. "We've got a big day ahead of us. The brass says this is it. We're taking the fight to those alien bastards." Alex froze. This was wrong. All wrong. He'd lived this day before. He'd died this day before. Many, many times. As if in a trance, he went through the motions. Suiting up in his powered armor. Checking his weapon systems. Boarding the dropship. All the while, his mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. The first time he'd lived this day, Alex had been terrified but excited. Fresh out of boot camp, eager to prove himself. He'd lasted all to 5 minutes on the battlefield before an alien drone had reduced him to a smear on the ground. Then he'd woken up, right back in his bunk, the day starting over. At first, he'd thought he was going insane. Some kind of combat stress, reliving his death over and over. But it was real. Somehow, impossibly, he was trapped in a loop of time. "Hey, Novak." Private Chen elbowed him in the ribs. "You with us, man? You're looking a little green around the gills." Alex forced a smile. "Yeah, just pre-battle jitters, I guess." Chen nodded sympathetically. "I hear you. But hey, we've got the element of surprise, right? Those ugly mothers won't know what hit them." If only he knew. The dropship shuddered as it entered the upper atmosphere. Alex closed his eyes, remembering. This would be his, 50th attempt? 60th? He'd lost count. Each time, he'd tried something different. Warned his squad about the ambush waiting for them. Attempted to sabotage the mission, hoping to save lives. Even tried to desert once. Nothing worked. The day always reset, no matter what he did. But he was learning. Slowly, painfully, he was learning. He knew the exact moment and location every member of his squad would die if he did nothing. He'd memorized the attack patterns of the alien swarms, the weak points in their defenses. This time would be different. This time, he'd make it count. The dropship's bay doors opened with a hiss of hydraulics. Alex took a deep breath, centering himself. "Remember your training." Sergeant Mills shouted over the roar of wind and engines. "Stay in formation, watch each other's backs, and we'll all make it home for beer and medals. Now let's go introduce these Xeno freaks to the United Earth Marines." With that, they leaped into the maelstrom. The battlefield was chaos incarnate. Streaks of energy weapons fire crisscrossed the sky. The booming of artillery and the scream of jet engines filled the air. And everywhere, the chittering, howling swarms of alien monstrosities. Alex's squad hit the ground running, their powered armor absorbing the impact of the drop. They moved with practiced precision, laying down suppressing fire as they advanced on their objective, a massive alien structure that intelligence believed to be some kind of command node. "Contact left," Private Rodriguez called out. "Big bastards, coming in fast." Alex spun, his weapon already tracking to the threat. He'd seen these before, hulking brutes the size of small buildings, all rippling muscle and rending claws. "Aim for the joints," he shouted. "Concentrated fire, they'll go down." The squad responded instantly, a hail of armor-piercing rounds tearing into the creature's vulnerable points. Alex's knowledge paid off. The aliens fell, thrashing and howling, before they could close to melee range. "Nice call, Novak." Sergeant Mills nodded approvingly. "Where'd you learn that trick?" Alex managed a tight smile. "Just a hunch, Sarge." They pressed on, Alex's foreign knowledge allowing them to avoid the worst of the ambushes and traps. For the first time in dozens of attempts, they were actually making progress towards their objective. But Alex knew the real test was yet to come. As they approached the alien structure, the air seemed to thicken. Reality itself appeared to warp and twist, as if they were looking at the world through a shattered lens. "What the hell?" Chen muttered. "My sensors are going crazy. Anyone else seeing this?" Before anyone could respond, the world shifted. Alex felt a sickening lurch in his stomach, like missing a step on a staircase. When his vision cleared, he found himself somewhere else entirely. Gone was the war-torn battlefield. Instead, he and his squad stood in a vast chamber of impossible geometry. Walls and floors curved in ways that hurt the mind to comprehend. In the center of it all floated a pulsing, writhing mass of tentacles and eyes. "Oh God," someone whimpered. "What is that thing?" Alex knew. He'd seen it before, in his many failed attempts. This was the true form of that enemy, not just an alien invasion force, but something far stranger and more terrifying. As the creature's countless eyes focused on them, Alex felt a presence pushing into his mind. Vast, ancient, utterly inhuman. And for the first time, he understood. This wasn't just a war, it was a test. The time loop, the endless repetition, it was all part of the aliens' plan. They were searching for something. Someone who could adapt, who could learn, who could overcome impossible odds. Someone like him. As that realization struck, Alex felt a surge of something. Power, knowledge, as if floodgates had opened in his mind. He knew what he had to do. "Everyone, stand back," he shouted, stepping forward. His squad mates called out in alarm, but their voices seemed distant, unimportant. Alex raised his hands, feeling energy crackle between his fingers. The alien entity pulsed, its tentacles writhing with anticipation. "You want humanity's champion," Alex growled. "Well, you've got him. Let's dance, you cosmic horror reject." With that, he unleashed a torrent of power he didn't fully understand. Reality buckled around him as human and alien clashed on a level beyond the physical. The fate of two species hung in the balance. Training and tactics. The world shattered like glass, and Alex found himself back in his bunk once more. He sat up slowly, his mind reeling from the memories of what had just transpired. "Rise and shine, Rook." Sergeant Mills' voice boomed, right on cue. "We've got a big day ahead of us." Alex tuned out the familiar words, focusing inward. The power he had felt in that alien chamber, it was still there, humming just beneath the surface of his consciousness, but it was raw, unfocused. He needed to learn how to control it. And he had all the time in the world to do just that. As the day progressed, Alex went through the motions of preparation, his body on autopilot while his mind raced. He began to see the time loop not as a curse, but as an opportunity, a chance to hone himself into the weapon humanity needed. When the dropship doors opened, Alex didn't jump with the others. Instead, he turned to Sergeant Mills. "Sir, I need you to trust me," he said, his voice steady. "I know what's waiting for us down there, and I know how to beat it, but I can't do it alone." Mills stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, Novak, what's the play?" And so began Alex's true training. Day after day, loop after loop, he refined his strategies. He learned to tap into the strange power the alien had awakened in him, using it to enhance his physical abilities and even manipulate the battlefield itself. He trained his squad relentlessly, turning them into a cohesive unit that could anticipate each other's moves. He memorized every detail of the alien forces, their tactics, their weaknesses, the ebb and flow of the battle. But it wasn't enough to simply survive. Alex knew he needed to understand his enemy on a deeper level. In one loop, he focused solely on observation, hiding and watching as the battle unfolded around him. He saw patterns in the aliens' movements, a strange, almost musical rhythm to their attacks. In another, he allowed himself to be captured, enduring unimaginable torments as he gleaned crucial information about the aliens' biology and technology. With each reset, Alex grew stronger, smarter, more capable, but he also felt himself changing in ways that were harder to define. The constant cycle of death and rebirth was taking its toll on his psyche. There were times when he questioned his own humanity. Was he still Alex Novak, or had he become something else entirely? During one particularly grueling loop, Alex found himself alone on the battlefield, his entire squad wiped out in the opening minutes of the fight. As alien drones closed in from all sides, he felt something inside him snap. With a primal scream, he unleashed his power in a way he never had before. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend to his will. Alien war machines crumpled like tin cans. Swarms of smaller creatures burst into flames. When it was over, Alex stood in the center of a mile-wide circle of devastation, panting heavily. The implications of what he had just done terrified him. He reset the loop immediately, unwilling to see that day through to its conclusion. As his training progressed, Alex began to notice something strange. Subtle changes persisting between loops. A scar here, a memory there. It was as if the constant repetition was wearing thin the barriers between iterations. He realized that he needed to act soon. Whatever cosmic gain he was caught in, it couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, something would have to give. On what he vowed would be his final run, Alex gathered his squad before the drop. They looked at him with a mix of confusion and awe, sensing that something was different about their rookie teammate. "I know this is going to sound crazy," he began, "but I need you all to listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you will save your lives and maybe the entire human race." Over the next hour, Alex laid out everything he had learned. The true nature of the alien threat, the weaknesses in their defenses, the power that lay dormant within humanity, waiting to be awakened. To their credit, his squad mates listened without interruption. When he finished, there was a long moment of silence. Finally, Sergeant Mills spoke up. "I don't know if I believe all that, Novak, but I've learned to trust my gut, and right now it's telling me you're on the level. So what's the plan?" Alex smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. He wasn't alone in this fight anymore. "The plan, Sarge, is to end this war once and for all." As the dropship doors opened, revealing the chaos of the battlefield below, Alex felt a sense of calm purpose wash over him. Whatever happened next, he knew this would be the last time he lived this day. One way or another, the loop was about to be broken. "Let's go introduce these Xeno freaks to the United Earth Marines," he said, echoing Mill's words from countless loops past, "and show them why you don't mess with humanity." With that, they leaped into the fray, ready to write the final chapter of this strange, repeating war. Uncovering the truth, the battlefield was a maelstrom of chaos, but to Alex's experienced eyes, it was a dance he knew by heart. He led his squad through the carnage with preternatural skill, anticipating every move the aliens made. "Rodriguez, on your 6, Alex called out, seconds before a chitinous horror burst from the ground behind the private. Rodriguez spun, his weapon already firing, and the creature fell in a spray of ichor. "How did you?" Rodriguez began, but Alex was already moving on to the next threat. As they fought their way towards the alien command structure, Alex's squadmates began to realize just how much he had changed. It wasn't just his combat prowess or his uncanny ability to predict enemy movements. There was something fundamentally different about him, as if he were operating on a level beyond normal human perception. They reached the structure faster than Alex had ever managed before. The writhing, geometric nightmare of its architecture loomed before them, reality warping around its edges. "All right, listen up," Alex said, gathering the squad close. What we're about to face in there, it's not like anything you've seen before. Stay close, watch each other's backs, and no matter what happens, remember, we're human. That's our strength." With a nod from Sergeant Mills, they entered the alien stronghold. The interior was a maze of non-Euclidean corridors and chambers that seemed to shift and change with each step. Alex navigated it confidently, leading them deeper into the heart of the structure. As they progressed, the air grew thick with a strange psychic pressure. Alex could feel the alien presence pushing against his mind, trying to disorient and confuse them. He pushed back, shielding his squad mates as best he could. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The pulsing, many-eyed mass of the alien entity filled the space, its tentacles writhing in patterns that hurt the mind to follow. "Oh God," Chen whispered, his voice shaking. "What is that thing?" Alex stepped forward, power crackling around him. "The end of the line," he said grimly. "This is what's been controlling the invasion, the source of the time loop. And now we're going to end it." The alien's countless eyes focused on Alex, and he felt the full weight of its ancient, inhuman intellect bearing down on him. Images and concepts flooded his mind: the vast expanse of the cosmos, the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the true nature of time and reality. And through it all, a question, a purpose. "Why do you resist?" The alien's thoughts resonated in Alex's head. "We offer ascension, evolution, the chance to become more than your limited forms allow." Alex gritted his teeth, pushing back against the mental onslaught. "We don't want your ascension," he growled. "Humanity chooses its own path." The alien's response was a wave of emotion, confusion, frustration, and something almost like sadness. "You do not understand. This is not invasion. It is salvation." Suddenly, Alex saw the truth. The time loop, the seemingly endless war, it wasn't a test of humanity's martial prowess. It was an attempt to communicate, to find a mind capable of bridging the vast gulf between their species. The aliens weren't conquerors. They were refugees, fleeing some cosmic horror beyond human comprehension. They had come to Earth seeking allies, hoping to uplift humanity and forge a symbiotic relationship that would allow both species to survive. But their alien nature, so fundamentally different from human psychology, had made true communication impossible. Until now. Alex turned to his squad mates, seeing the confusion and fear on their faces. "Stand down," he said softly. "This isn't what we thought it was." "Novak, what are you talking about?" Sergeant Mills demanded. "That thing is the enemy." Alex shook his head. "No, Sarge, they're not the enemy. They're scared and alone, and they need our help." He took a deep breath, knowing that what he was about to do would change everything. Slowly, he removed his helmet, letting it fall to the ground. "I'm ready," he said, addressing the alien entity. "Show me, show us, help us understand." The chamber filled with light as the alien's consciousness expanded, enveloping them all. Alex felt his mind opening, expanding to encompass knowledge and perspectives beyond anything he had experienced before. He saw the vastness of the universe, teeming with life and intelligence beyond human imagining. He saw the threat that had driven the aliens to Earth, a cosmic horror that devoured entire galaxies, snuffing out the light of countless civilizations. And he saw hope, the potential for humanity and the aliens to join together, combining their strengths to face this threat and forge a future among the stars. As the vision faded, Alex found himself on his knees, gasping for breath. Around him, his squad mates were in similar states of shock and awe. Did you all see that?" Chen asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sergeant Mills nodded slowly, his usual gruff demeanor shaken. "I saw it. God help me, I saw it all." Alex stood, turning to face the alien entity. Its form seemed different now, less terrifying and more sad, lonely. "We understand now," Alex said, his voice steady, "and we want to help. But we need to do this our way, as equals, not as subjects to be uplifted." The alien's response was a wave of relief and gratitude so powerful it brought tears to Alex's eyes. Yes, it communicated. Equals. Partners. Together, we may yet survive. As the realization of what had just transpired sank in, Alex knew that the real work was just beginning. Convincing the rest of humanity to accept this new reality would be a monumental task. But as he looked at his squadmates, seeing the mix of fear, wonder, and determination on their faces, he felt a surge of hope. The war was over. A new chapter in human history was about to begin. And Alex Novak, the man who had lived 1,000 lifetimes in a single day, would be there to help write it. The final push. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Alex and his squad found themselves at the center of a diplomatic firestorm as they worked to convince the world's leaders of the truth they had discovered. It wasn't easy. Decades of war and loss had left deep scars on the human psyche. Many were reluctant to believe that their longtime enemies could suddenly become allies. Others saw the aliens' offer of partnership as a trick, a more insidious form of conquest. But Alex had an ace up his sleeve, the knowledge and abilities he had gained through countless time loops. With surgical precision, he navigated the complex web of human politics, knowing exactly what to say and to whom to say it. Slowly but surely, the tide of opinion began to turn. It was during a tense meeting with the United Earth Council that Alex finally felt the balance shift. He stood before the assembled leaders, his squad beside him, as he made his final plea. "I know what I'm asking you to believe seems impossible," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "But the simple truth is this: we are not alone in the universe, and we cannot afford to stand divided any longer." He gestured to a holographic display showing the vast, galaxy-devouring horror that threatened both humanity and their former alien enemies. This is the real enemy. A cosmic force that will consume everything in its path unless we stand against it, united. There was a long moment of silence as the council members absorbed his words. Then, slowly, one by one, they began to nod. "Very well, Mr. Novak," the council president said at last. "We will take your proposal under advisement. But I warn you, if this is some kind of deception, the consequences will be severe." Alex allowed himself a small smile. It wasn't a full victory, but it was a start. As they left the council chambers, Sergeant Mills clapped a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Never thought I'd see the day when we'd be making peace with those squid-faced bastards," he said gruffly. "You sure about this, Novak?" Alex nodded. "More sure than I've ever been about anything, Sarge. This is our only chance." Over the next few weeks, a tenuous alliance began to form. Human scientists worked alongside their alien counterparts, struggling to understand and adapt the advanced technology that had once been used against them. Alex found himself acting as a bridge between the two species, his unique experiences allowing him to grasp concepts that left others baffled. It was exhausting, mentally and physically draining work, but he pushed himself relentlessly, because he knew that time was running out. The cosmic horror, which humans had taken to calling the Devourer, was approaching faster than anyone had anticipated. Its vast, reality-warping presence could already be felt at the edges of the solar system. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of preparation, the day of reckoning arrived. Alex stood on the bridge of the US Prometheus, a massive battleship that represented the pinnacle of human-alien hybrid technology. Around him, a fleet of similar vessels stretched as far as the eye could see, humanity's last, best hope for survival. "All ships report ready, sir," Lieutenant Chen said from her station. Alex nodded, a lump forming in his throat as he realized that this was it. No more time loops. No more second chances. Whatever happened next would be final. "Open a channel to the fleet," he ordered. As the communications officer complied, Alex took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. He thought of all the lives lost in the long war, of the countless iterations he had lived through to reach this point, of the future that hung in the balance. "Attention all ships," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. This is Admiral Novak. In a few moments, we will engage an enemy unlike any we have faced before. An enemy that threatens not just our world, not just our species, but all life as we know it. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we do not face this threat alone. Standing beside us are beings we once called enemies, now our staunchest allies. Together, we represent the best hope for survival that this galaxy has ever known. On screens throughout the fleet, human and alien faces looked back at him, united in purpose. I won't lie to you, the odds are against us. The Devourer is powerful beyond imagining. But we have something it doesn't. We have the strength that comes from unity, the resilience born of diversity, the sheer, stubborn determination to forge our own destiny among the stars. Alex's voice grew stronger, filled with conviction. So let them come. Let the Devourer face the combined might of two species who refuse to go quietly into the night. We will show it that life, in all its beautiful, chaotic, miraculous forms, will not be extinguished. Not today, not ever. He raised his fist, a gesture of defiance against the cosmic darkness that loomed before them. For Earth, for our new allies, for the future of all life in this galaxy, charge. As one, the fleet surged forward, a dazzling array of weaponry blazing to life. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to buckle as they engaged the Devourer, reality twisting and warping around them. Alex gripped the arms of his command chair, his mind reaching out to coordinate with the alien consciousness that now fought alongside them. In that moment, he felt a sense of unity and purpose unlike anything he had ever experienced. Whatever the outcome, he knew that this was where he was meant to be. This was what all those loops, all that suffering and learning, had been preparing him for. As the battle raged around him, Alex Novak allowed himself a small, fierce smile. The final push had begun, and humanity would not go down without a fight. Aftermath and twist. The battle against the Devourer raged for what felt like an eternity. Time and space walked around the combatants, making it impossible to track the passage of hours or days. Reality itself seemed to fracture and reform with each exchange of fire. Alex Novak stood at the heart of it all, his mind linked with both human and alien consciousnesses, coordinating strategies that defied conventional physics. The power he had gained through his time loops surged through him, allowing him to perceive and influence the battle on levels beyond normal human comprehension. But even with their combined might, victory seemed increasingly unlikely. The Devourer was simply too vast, too alien in its power. For every blow they struck against it, it seemed to grow stronger, adapting and evolving at a terrifying rate. As their fleet dwindled and hope began to fade, Alex made a desperate decision. All ships, fall back to Rally Point Omega, he ordered, his voice strained. I'm going in alone. Admiral, that's suicide. Chen protested from her station. Alex managed a grim smile. Maybe, but I've died before, many times. This time, it might just make a difference. Before anyone could stop him, Alex transported himself directly into the heart of the Devourer. As the alien horror enveloped him, he unleashed every ounce of power he had accumulated through his countless loops. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a blinding flash of light that outshone galaxies, everything changed. Alex found himself elsewhere, a realm beyond space and time, beyond the comprehension of human or alien minds. And he wasn't alone. Before him stood a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and changing. Somehow, Alex knew he was face to face with the true nature of the Devourer. You have passed the test, the being said, its voice resonating on a frequency that shook Alex to his core. Test. Alex managed to ask, his mind reeling. What test? The being's form coalesced into something almost human-like. The test of unity, of growth, of the willingness to overcome differences in the face of a greater threat. As understanding dawned, Alex felt a mix of emotions, relief, anger, confusion. You mean, this was all a simulation? The war, the time loops, the Devourer, it was all fake. Not fake, but being corrected. A crucible. A means of pushing your species, and the ones you know as aliens, to evolve beyond your current limitations. The being gestured, and Alex saw visions of countless other civilizations, each facing their own versions of the test. Some failed, destroying themselves or falling to infighting. Others, like humanity and their alien allies, rose to the challenge. But why? Alex demanded. Why put us through all that suffering? The being's form shifted again, becoming a swirling vortex of stars and galaxies. Because the true threat that awaits requires nothing less. The universe is vast and full of wonders, but also dangers beyond your current ability to comprehend. Only those who can unite and evolve have a chance of survival. Alex absorbed this, his mind racing with the implications. So what happens now? Now, the being said, you have earned your place among the galactic community. Your species, both of them, will be welcomed as equals. And you, Alex Novak, have a choice to make. The being extended what might have been a hand. You can return to your people, help guide them into this new era. Or you can ascend, join us as a guardian of reality itself. The power you've gained through your loops makes you uniquely suited for such a role. Alex hesitated, torn between his duty to humanity and the tantalizing offer of cosmic enlightenment. In the end, though, the choice was clear. I need to go back, he said firmly. My people, both human and alien, will need guidance in the days to come. But someday, when they're ready, I might take you up on that offer. The being seemed to smile, though it had no discernible face. A wise choice. Go then, Alex Novak. Go and lead your people into a future brighter than any you could have imagined. With a rush of sensation, Alex found himself back on the bridge of the Prometheus. Around him, the crew stared in awe at the transformed space before them. Where the Devourer had been, there was now a shimmering portal of light. Admiral. Chen's voice was barely a whisper. What happened? What is that? Alex smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace and purpose. That, Lieutenant, is our future, and it's time we stepped into it. As the combined fleet of humans and former alien enemies approached the portal, Alex reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The countless loops, the hard-won lessons, the sacrifices made by so many. It hadn't been easy, but they had proved themselves worthy of the challenges to come. As they passed through the portal into a realm of untold wonders and possibilities, Alex Novak knew that this was not an ending, but a beginning. The true adventure, for humanity, for their alien allies, and for Alex himself, was just getting started. And somewhere, in the vast tapestry of reality, the beings who had set this all in motion watched with satisfaction. Another species had passed the test. Another ally had been forged in the cosmic crucible. The universe, in all its infinite complexity, continued its eternal dance, and humanity, at last, had taken its place among the stars. End of story.